This time on Allies or Enemies, we are looking at Trekking Through History. Our copy of the game was supplied by the publisher, but the thoughts are all our own. Trekking Through History is a 2 to 4 player game designed by Charlie Bink. The third installment in the Trekking series, Trekking Through History, is a fairly lightweight game that plays in about 45 minutes and has players traveling through time, visiting various historical periods. Much like our time-traveling forefathers, Ted Theodore Logan and Bill S. Preston Esquire, you will be gathering experiences and meeting important figures throughout history. But what does that look like in actual gameplay? Let's take a look.
Your main goals in Trekking Through History are to fill your itineraries and to go on treks, which are chronologically ordered runs of cards. To start a round, each player chooses one of their itineraries from the 4 they were given to start the game, and 5 cards are dealt out from the current round deck, and then you're off to travel time. Each turn, the player that is furthest behind on the time track will choose a card from the 6 available, which includes the top of the deck, then spend the time cost for that excursion, gain experience tokens, and add those tokens to the corresponding rows of their itinerary. When you fill point spaces and rows in your itinerary, you gain points. When you get the crystal icon, you gain 2 time crystals, which can be used to decrease the time cost of future cards. Then you place your card on top of your current trek as long as its time period is later than the previous card. If the event comes earlier, you need to pack up your current trek and start a new one. You'll probably go on 4 or 5 of these a game. Then play moves to whoever's now furthest back on the time track, even if it's the same player again. This continues until all players reach 12 o'clock. Then you set up for a new round with new itineraries and a new deck. You do get to keep your crystals and your current trek, however. After 3 rounds, players add up points from leftover crystals and from all the treks that they went on, and you can find the scores for those here. And they add those to their current points. And then we see who has a most triumphant victory.
This game is gorgeous. First of all, Eric Hibbeler's art is absolutely stunning. Every card tells a little story. It would have been easy to go the route of portraits, but instead, the art in this game feels active and alive. And the historical periods chosen are sensible, with a nice mix of the ones you might expect and a few curveballs. All of the bits are also terrific. The neoprene board is such a nice touch, especially in a game that involves a lot of moving and picking up cards. The cards are all high quality. And while we don't usually love plastic components, the pocket watches have a really nice weight to them, and the plastic tokens are extremely easy to tell apart at a glance. Also, the tray fits everything perfectly, which is always a real plus. There are also some really nice educational touches here, like all of the info on the back of each card, giving some surprisingly interesting insights into each of the historical figures or moments. If we had one small quibble, it would be the time warp cards, which is kind of a little enhanced bit to add for expert players, but don't quite live up to the high quality of everything else. But that is a tiny quibble.
This game is actually surprisingly replayable for a light game. Sometimes games with this level of specificity in their cards and bits can feel a little bit samey, like I already had those 2 Ninja Turtles last game, but we haven't really felt that here. Because the focus is the icons and the dates in a more abstracted sense, there's a lot more replayability than something like timelines. After a few games, you will probably stop reading the backs of the cards, however, and daydreaming about hanging with Tesla, but there's enough game here that it will survive well beyond that point. That said, this is still a light game, so the replayability is going to likely be higher with newer gamers or those that are okay with a quicker experience.
This is a 2 to 4 player game, and it works just as well at all counts. Because the timeline of your trek generally pushes you towards a couple of options each round, turns tend to be quick. so playtime is unlikely to be a factor, even at a full house. Although there can occasionally be a bit of a wait if you take a big time card and everyone else combos longer turns of one time card, but that's generally in your control. The biggest change will be in the departure row, which is the game's main and kind of only point of player interaction. More players obviously means more competition for cards and a faster moving card row, which will mean more thinking on your feet. Well, 2 has the double edged sword of more possible planning and an opponent who is specifically focused on you and where you might want to go.
Trekking through history was a bit of a surprise to us. We liked the previous game in this series, Trekking the World, just fine, but this one exceeded our expectations. As a gateway game, we can see this being a hit with new gamers or especially gamer families who want to expose their kids to some important moments in history and impart a bit of fun learning. And there's a bit more to it than we expected with the interconnected decisions of collecting tokens, managing your time, and choosing cards for your trek. Plus, the production adds a lot. However, as we said before, this is still a light game, and it may not be enough to keep the attention of those that trend toward the heavier end of the game spectrum. But for those that like a little education with their gateway games, or those that have a history report due tomorrow in San Dimas and can't find a telephone booth near their local Circle K, this is a solid experience. And that is it. Have you played Trekking Through History, and what other gateway games do you and your family keep coming back to? And as always, please do like, comment, subscribe, and be excellent to each other. And hopefully we'll see you all next time for another game.